Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Coffee Experts Club. Good to see you guys here. Drew, all I have to say is I think that being in Belize so long has broken your internal temperature system. Like I love the hood today and like just hoodied up. I asked Ben, hey, don't you live pretty close to Drew right now when he's in town? And Ben's like, yeah, it's like 70 degrees outside, but Drew is just garbed as though it was a Wyoming winter.
I'm shivering in the house.
Seriously though, do you think living down in Belize has changed your equilibrium when it comes to temperature?
Definitely. I mean, the longer I'm here, obviously, the more I'm going to readjust back to this. But the longer I'm there, like I'll come back here. It doesn't matter what time of year it is, and it's pretty much cold.
Right.
I can be there and it's 70 degrees with a light wind, and it's cold down there. And up here, that's nice, warm, sunny day. It's just a lot different.
Running coffee in Belize, it's not a joke. You sweat all the time and you can never come back to America because you're always cold. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. Coffee Experts, it's great to have you guys here with us. You know, if you're thinking about starting coffee, if you know somebody that's starting coffee, especially when it comes to coffee drive-through, this is the place to be. Every week we're going through different topics that are going to help educate you, educate people. And today we're going to talk about something that's really, really critical when it comes to, you know, we've talked about dollars and cents and savings prior to this, but now we're going to give you the brass tacks on how it really works. Today, we're going to talk about cost of goods and supply chain and how you track how much you're actually shipping or actually ordering for each location. So key in here, because there's a lot to be learned on how much money that you're going to keep in the bank and how much is too much to have in your stores, and then how to balance it all. So, Ben, I know we talked about at the beginning as we were talking about the show today, situations we had happen in managing multiple locations. You know, you were the operations director for a chain of 15 locations in a roastery. Why don't you tell us, like you and I create this is another one of those where the origin came out of you're in my brain having conversations, and it's iterationally become something more over time as we've continued to roll it out over and over again with multiple coffee brands and businesses. But maybe have a conversation a little bit about how the smart ordering sheet works and maybe talk to people about it.
Yeah. I mean, it started off like every coffee company, we only have one or two locations. Like our inventory system was counting how many cups we used during that shift. And then our ordering system was writing it down on a piece of paper and calling it into our distributor every Tuesday morning to get like a Thursday delivery. So it's obviously started off at humble beginnings, but as you grow, you need to have more refined systems so that you can actually track what's going on. It's easy to track what's going on when you have two locations, one person doing the ordering for both. It's most likely you, the operator owner, so you know exactly how much you need. You've got used to your trends, but the minute you start growing to like 4, 5, 6 locations, you've got 20-year-old managers who are now doing the ordering for you. You realize quickly that, holy cow, like my costs can balloon really fast. Like when, you know, you have somebody who doesn't have any skin in the game ordering all of your product, they're like, I never want to run out of anything. So I'll just order double of everything. And that first invoice you get, you're like, what the hell? How you spend so much money? I mean, I think I say it about once every episode, but my example always that one manager who ordered, 10 cases of strawberry smoothie mix in December. And I'm just like, what are you doing, dude? We're going to have this strawberry smoothie mix until next May. That's not what you do. So we had to build a system that would A, help track inventory, and B, give the managers some sort of insight and some sort of direction in ordering. So it wasn't just ordering from the gut. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I remember like vanilla lattes were popular yesterday, so I'm just going to order like a whole nother case for next week. Because that's where you run into the problems is the gut ordering, especially with somebody who isn't the owner and doesn't have, like I said, real skin in the game and how much, like where this money's actually coming from. So we created a sheet that would in essence give them 4 weeks of ordering, and each week was built off of the previous weeks before it. So it would give them a sort of roundabout idea based off of how much they ordered, how much they used. It would tell you, okay, over the last 3 weeks, you've used, 63 bottles of strawberry syrup. You should probably order 63 bottles of strawberry syrup this week. Now, it gave them the guardrails, but it was still up to the manager to say, yes, I should order that much, but I also know that there's going to be a baseball game in the baseball fields right next to us, and strawberry energy drinks are going to be super popular. So maybe I'll up that order a little bit. So there's still a little bit of a manager play. And this is still even really like low tech. We built this inside of Google Sheets. The next iteration up from that is actually getting on a platform, an inventory platform, or through your POS using an inventory system that then actually does, all of this for you integrated. But if you're not at that point yet, if you have just the 5-6 locations, doing something inside Google Sheets that just really easily just counts how many I used the previous week, how many I ordered the previous week, counts how many are still left on my shelves, and just through a really easy formula says, you should probably order this much.
Top pars, right? We established the pars of what we would want as like the happy medium of what we want to always have on our shelves so that we don't run out, so we're not stressed.
Yep. So having some sort of system like that, and honestly, that's we have that tool, but any 19-year-old who's in, any sort of math class at a community college, you can throw this together for you really quick. Any sort of business class,
or we could, if they want it, if you want that tool, you can just hit us up on any of our socials. You can just comment in their ordering tool and we'll send it over to you. It's also part of the Coffee Experts Academy. If that's something that you wanted, this is a tool that we include in there, but for sure, we want to help anybody that's looking for tools that's going to make their coffee shop better. So just hit us up on socials too, direct message us.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, the ultimate goal being getting your COGS down, because the best way to make money without increasing your revenue or increasing your car count is decreasing your spend. That's right. That money that goes straight back into your pocket. So how can I decrease, the 15 cases of strawberry smoothie mix in December down to maybe 1 case? Because that's realistically how much we're doing. And I'm not buying 14 cases that are just going to sit on the shelf for the next 6 months. And the way you do that is by using some sort of smart inventory system. So you're not shooting from the hip when it comes to those products, especially those expensive products, and you're really ordering how much you need with a little extra to always be on your shelf, just in case, you never know, while also giving that manager a little bit of leeway to say, I know there's going to be something going on. I should probably order more of X or Y. So with a combination of that, you can really dial in your cost of goods and create some serious savings for yourself and not freak out every time you see that delivery invoice. You go, what?
I think the thing that we try and incorporate a lot, and Drew and I deal with this a lot in Belize, because we're countries away, right? We're not even just one country away. We're a couple countries away. You know what I mean? And the fastest Drew and I could get down there is 8 hours. And that's like if we were hustling on the fastest flight to get us from where we're at in the Pacific Northwest. So it's not a quick, like, let's solve a problem, and it's not cheap to fly an 8-hour flight down there. I mean, like we'd have to pay through the wazoo. And what you need is the ability to manage. I talk to a lot of coffee shop owners when we have these conversations about how do I get a system that's tight enough that I can manage it remote, right? Because that's every coffee shop owner's dream, unless you just love waking up at 4 a.m. every morning and getting to go open your shop, which there are people out there that love that. There are people that are going to want to know that they have systems that they can just manage remotely. And so I think what Ben is describing, whatever that would be, if it's the smart ordering sheet that we created, I think if it's you're using some sort of software that's going to complement it, we're going to always go with cheap or free at the beginning, right? Because we're trying to save you money. Last thing we're like, hey, we know this really expensive piece of software. It's 50 grand. You know what I mean? Like that's the last thing we want to encourage. But so we're going to give you free or cheap at the beginning, this ordering sheet that if you want it, you can just comment ordering tool in any of our socials. We'll send it to you. It's easy. It's simple. It's something. But I think, Drew, the way I want to take this is to ask you then took what Ben created and rolled it out at 7 locations that you were like the district manager for, where you had to go then manage. And I think that maybe you speak to Like it's so much easier to manage people and their habits when there's a medium, when there's a tool that you're managing from. Because otherwise you're trying to teach gut, right? Like how do you teach gut check? Like how do you, when it comes to inventory, it's very, very hard for people to order like Drew wants them to order unless you have a tool that you can manage from. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, it goes all the way back to the basics of just having a handbook. You know, you can't lead a bunch of stores without some sort of guiding point that you're going to be pushing people towards all of the time. And the way that we built out the systems was to teach, you know, and that's, I'll always lean into that. I love teaching and giving away all the keys to the kingdom and seeing how they can grow. 'Cause inevitably, they're going to organically grow better than we did it originally through trial and error. And these kids have the best ideas because they're the ones on the front lines using it. But managing something that you have baselines, we have baselines for all of the things that we're going to do. And we can just hold these sheets up to the baselines, or we can hold up performance to certain baselines, or how we would always talk about retroactively. It's hard to change things in retrospect when you're waiting a month to see really how your cost of goods were doing and seeing how everything is lining up. So having these tools kind of allowed us to have a real-time function in, are we over ordering things, you know, and what each line item is going to cost and how much of that we're really using in each store. So having all of the managers going to the same sheet, it allowed us to speak the same language. It allowed us to have the same teaching moments. And we had a group chat. We had several group chats. We still have too many group chats, but we'd go back to open questions of the managers so that if one had a question, I'm sure another had a question, and it allowed them to have that space where we could guide them back then to say, hey, this is how the sheet is going to function. If you know, in certain areas, like Ben said, are going to have different events. We had a store next to a baseball field. We'll have a store next to a college. We'll have a store next to a high school. And it allows those managers to then be like, okay, well, if I'm plugged into the calendar of the events of whatever's going on at this place that I'm next to, it allows them to say, okay, I'm probably going to need that extra strawberry because, like Ben said, energy drinks fly out the window. But yeah, having a system, having a place that we can all go and saying, these are our baselines. Each store will have its own baselines, but still we're speaking the same language when we say baseline, you know, or par levels. And that's really, I mean, it revolutionized the coffee industry when we all started talking about, you know, grams instead of ounces or ounces instead of grams, and got everybody speaking the same language. And so having those, you know, the guiding force as to this is how we're going to run inventory. And it's not just teaching the kids or whoever you have running your store. It's also teaching our vendors that these are how we're going to speak across 7, 15 locations. Each manager is going to speak the same way, put in orders the same way, ask the same questions. And it just, you know, it streamlines things because it's hard to manage 150 people, but it's easy to manage one system that 150 people rely on.
I think too, like when it comes to, if you ever dream of franchising, if you ever dream of, you know, that was something that Ben and I put a lot of time into, was developing a franchise agreement and working with an attorney. And Ben and I probably gave 6 or 9 months of our life, like building this thing out that was never even fully rolled out to Drew's, like, like he was going to be our first pilot with a franchisee. And man, it was a terrible thing for the roasters days, but it was a great thing for me because Drew and I became partners in this thing we're doing down in Belize, which I think is a million times better for both of us. But I think that when Ben and I put together the FDD, which is the baseline contract you need as a franchisee, what they're going to want to know is, how many systems like this do you have in place? Like how many systems do you have in place when it comes to consistency, just like Drew said, so that across the board, ordering happens in a very consistent way. Like the people aren't just left to guess. If somebody steps into a coffee franchise and they don't know what they're doing, the reason why people franchise is because they don't know what they're doing. They want to step into something that's framed for them. So when you can give them some guardrails, like Ben was talking about, some confidence, that really helps. So not only are you helping you, but you're actually making your business more valuable for the future if you ever want to bring somebody else into it, or if you ever want to sell at some point. Like, what are the systems that makes your coffee shop more worthy? Because there are a lot of people that have coffee shops. And how do you know predictable income? Well, the way you know predictable income is based upon previous sales plus a bump in hopefully year over year sales. Like you put that sales goal out there to people, but you need to also hold against that what you think that your costs are going to be. And if you don't have dependable ways to guarantee that your costs aren't going to be a boomerang all over the place, super, super high one month, super, super down the next month. And Ben and I would coach people based on that. So my role would be, so to finish that thought is, you want systems to make your business valuable. But taking this from what Ben's talking about, Ben and I create the sheet together. A lot of it was Ben's brainchild. He rolls out to Drew and the rest of their locations. They start ordering on it. And then from there, as I'm reviewing the P&Ls every month, and I'm going back to the owner and having conversations about it, and having conversations with Ben for the trickle down, It's, hey, Ben, like, do you see this store right here? Look at the last 3 months. You see him way over order this month. And then next month, his COGS are super low. And then the next month, they're way back up. It's because he's over ordering it. He'll just get into a consistent rhythm. He's going to be more profitable as a store, which is going to help with the incentive matrix that we talked about last week. And then receiving money back. So it's a lot of these systems are not only to bring value to your store, now in the present, how do we keep most money in your pocket? That's always our number one. Number two, how do we create you a value for your business in case you ever want to sell someday, or to create a franchise opportunity where our systems work? What I can tell you about Coffee de los Mayas systems is they work. The reason we know they work is because they've been working for the last 3 years, and we're going to continue open off of them, and we're going to continue to run them remotely because they work. Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive-Through Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-through. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee, and it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there.
And the beautiful thing about something like those sheets is it allows you to do just that. Google Sheets is beautiful in that anybody can access the sheet if you give it to them. So you could literally have the sheet, a smart ordering sheet open, and watch your manager filling in their inventory and the order numbers and be checking the work as they're doing it if you want. You don't need to be there holding their hand saying, okay, yeah, there's 7 bottles of strawberry. You should order 12 more. There's 6 bottles of vanilla. You can just watch them do that and then coach them afterwards if it doesn't look correct, or coach them during it. You don't have to physically be there. But also to the point of the having some sort of inventory system, one of the biggest problems that helped us curb, which I'm sure every coffee owner has that has more than one locations, is the whole, I ran out of this, can I borrow it from your shop? Which what is happening, right? Clippage, I mean, every manager, oh my God, I ran out of vanilla. Let me run to this other shop and see if they have extra vanilla. And then there's a group chat. Does anybody have any extra vanilla? It's because a lot of that.
And it's always the same culprits, right? It's the irresponsible manager that's being pilfered off of by all the other ones that are a little bit more forgetful.
Yep. And so implementing a system like that helps curb that. But also what we added into the system was, did I have any product that was taken from me, or did I take from others? So that the following week I could add those numbers in, because inevitably these managers, the problem was that they would, order low on one item. And so they would run to another store and borrow some. Well, come next week, they would forget that they went to borrow some. So they'd order the same number, and inevitably they'd be short again. They'd have to go. It was this vicious cycle of forgetting that they were constantly borrowing. So we're like, okay, how about we track how much you're having to borrow from other stores? And so after a couple of weeks, they go, oh, I'm having to borrow 12 bottles of vanilla every week. Maybe I should just increase my order by 12. And what do you know? I'm good the next week. So having some sort of system that accounts for that slippage, or to the contrary, like if people are constantly taking product from my store, it's because I'm over ordering. And that's not really showing up because I keep giving it away to people. So maybe I need to lower my ordering so I'm ordering correctly, and everybody else needs to order more so they're ordered correctly. All of that are problems that will nag your back to your brain every night while you're in bed going, where's all this money going? Until you just implement a couple systems that kind of wipe all that out. And that problem will naturally fix itself because the system is designed to say, hey, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. You should fix this. You should fix this. Congratulations. You fixed it. Now we keep going forward.
And, I think that something that we talk about a lot in Coffee Experts Academy is how do we take these kids, right? Because they're kids. Our ideal avatar for hiring a manager or people working at our stands are going to be that young, like early 20s, like maybe latter teens, early 20s. Like that's an ideal candidate for us. Well, they probably don't have a lot of experience yet. I mean, in both work or life. Like they're just figuring out they're kids, you know what I'm saying? So how can we convert kids into true merchants? I mean, we talk about it a lot in the academy of how do I give this person some business savvy, not just like they don't understand how it works in the through line. I give them this one task. They don't know where it started. They don't know where it's going to end up. They just
Yeah.
know they're ticking things off of a sheet like cup counts. Like they don't know exactly where it's coming from or where it's going. And how can we help educate our kids to help them see, no, when you do this, it's a start of a pipeline that's going to go downstream. And if you misorder, and that's going to lead you to steal from other stands, their goods, and we're not tracking that, it's going to make our cost of goods look higher on these other stands, which is going to drop your profitability down. So even if you killed it with that happy hour, we pushed your direction and you were just killing sales and you're thinking, my incentive bonus is going to be insane this month. Well, not if your cost of goods is high, because then you had two rising numbers, which means your margin still remains small, which means what you get from that profitability margin is going to be small. But the way that you can do that is let us drive sales with our marketing, right? Let us drive your happy hour. Let's drive down your cost of goods by making sure that you're ordering at a fair amount. Then that's going to leave the best chunk for not only the owner, but for you as the merchant, you as the one that's responsible for this store that's been committed to you. And we're going to reward you for that with an incentive bonus. I think that if you can create a holistic manager and not just somebody that writes a schedule or does some of the tasks that you don't like doing anymore, and you're the owner, so you get to decide who does those crappy tasks, like that is still you, the choking point, because you're still the one barking the orders and somebody else following them instead of, no, let me teach you how to run a coffee stand. And I think some people are like, I don't want to teach them all the secrets because then what if they go out and become my competitor? Do you know how much of an advantage you have just by having your door open right now and an established book of business, that if somebody else wants to open up something down the street, do you know how set back they are compared to what you already have right now? I think sometimes we downplay how much value we have. Like, treat your customers right, refine your systems down, get to highest profitability. And it's very, very hard for a new player to come on the scene and touch your advantage of you being on that corner for X amount of years prior to them getting. So
True.
I think you should never work out of fear, especially with your baristas. If you're doing something, you're like, am I doing this because I'm afraid of the outcome? It's probably not the right way to do it. You won't operate well, or it will create a weird culture in your business. I remember I was so proud when I was a young manager of all my product I had on my shelves. And Wes came in one time. I was like, yeah, look at all my product I have on my shelf. And he's like, dude, that's so much money just sitting there not making money. You know, it's not turning over. And systems were teaching me that. It's like, okay, we have par levels. I'm supposed to have 4 strawberry, not 20 strawberries. I'm supposed to have 17 vanillas. And so it did teach me in the same way. And Wes was good about that, giving away all the knowledge. And it wasn't really out of fear. And it kind of taught all the managers to do the same thing. I'm not worried about these kids competing with me. And if they do eventually, that's awesome because competition will make us better too.
Yeah. Yep. To work out of that fear of what if my employees leave and start their own thing that's such a small way to look at it versus the amount of stress and pressure you're going to cause on yourself by trying to hold all the keys to the kingdom. Like if you're trying to order for 7 locations, like, I'm sorry, you're stressing yourself out. You need 7 managers to do that ordering for you. And you just check in, look at the invoices as they come in. Hey, Bob, at location 3, this is a little too high. What's your ordering sheet look like? Oh, that's why you ordered a little too much of X. The sheet told you to order this much, but you didn't do that. Let's make sure we go by that sheet next time, or run it by me next time if you think the sheet's wrong. Little check-ins like that are way easier than spending 6 hours ordering for all of your locations. And then the stress of like, okay, now I've got 6 hours out of my day that I haven't done any marketing. I haven't looked at sales numbers. Don't cause yourself that much stress.
Yeah.
Bring out a few keys, give kids some ownership, and you'd be surprised at how well they rise to the occasion.
I think too, it's a culture thing too. And maybe we could now kick this around a little bit as we talk about this, as we talk about the empowering, the teaching, the inspiring. Like, I think my experience is most people leave when your culture's gone bad. Like when something's wrong with culture, that's why people leave. If you create a culture where you're inclusive, where you're educating, where they feel like they're growing as a person, even if they become your best people, I think that was something that Ben, you and I spent a lot of time at as we were developing for Roasters was, okay, so what's the journey of even our baristas? Like, what's the ideal journey of how they're going to grow with us? So they grow from just a barista. And then I think we created like a lead position where they're like a lead, and then maybe an assistant manager and then a manager. And then from a manager position, then if we're opening more and more locations, there should be some sort of regional or district or however you want to call it, where a multi-store manager is raised up out of our best managers. And then from there, the next extension would be franchising. And even in that, like everything is still within the ecosystem. You know what I mean? And if your culture is right, they're going to want to ascend with you through your ecosystem. Now, if people are leaving all the time or are leaving angry and bitter, I think all of us have to ask ourselves, are we leading from a good place? Like, is our culture good? And that maybe isn't from the top. Maybe it's not even you as the owner, but I will say, as goes the captain, so goes the ship. So ask yourself the question first, but then trickle it down to, is there a problem with my manager if I keep losing baristas? Is there a problem with some sort of system that's going on within one of these locations if I'm continuing to lose people? Because I think that all of our systems should lead to better retention and better education and more opportunity within our ecosystem. And then if they want to go start their own thing, to realize, man, God bless you as you go your way, but to come up against a powerhouse like this, they're not going to be a competitor to a powerhouse like that. If you've built properly with the right kind of foundations and scaled it accordingly, and a culture that's that webbed and strong, somebody can go spin off their own coffee shop. And what's going to take them? Let's say they grow aggressively, like Drew and I are. We're opening a new location every year. What's that going to mean? Like they're going to be a competitor to you in what, 5 or like, think about Roasters. They had 15 locations. How long is it going to take that guy to catch up? You know what I mean, like, but you're going to live scared until then. Like, it's just not worth it. Hand out the keys, teach people the things, and create a good culture.
I think things become a lot better when you're not working on it just yourself. If you're creating internally, eventually you're going to run out of your own creative juices. I mean, unless you're some artist, but usually artistic, expression doesn't really translate into the business space on processes and systems. And it's better to bring in other minds, and the best way to do that is to educate. It's really difficult to have conversation about the foresight and business direction if you have managers that don't quite understand what you're talking about. And, you can talk all day to somebody who doesn't get it, and you're not going to get anything back. You might feel, relieved at the end of the day that you got some stuff off your chest, but really it's just going to come back to you because that person wasn't able to return any intelligent thought towards it. And the best way to have an intelligent conversation with people, the best way to have, multiple minds working on something, which is really, I think, how things compound, is to give away those keys.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say exactly that. One of the, to Aaron's point about culture, one of the worst cultural things you can have is a culture where you have a manager or a barista, and you constantly tell them, hey, you're doing this wrong. You're ordering too much. You need to be better at this, but you don't give them any sort of tool to be better, where you're effectively saying, hey, your gut's wrong. You need a better gut. Like, that's the worst thing ever. I'm trying to do a good job, but I physically can't. Give me a tool to be able to do my job well. And so having a culture where you hold people accountable to those intelligent conversations, to those good decisions, but you also give them a way to learn how to get to that point. That's good culture. And that's a culture that will cause people to stick around, because that barista goes, oh, there's an ascension path here, and you're actually going to help me and teach me along the way. Like, this is like a learn on the job type opportunity. Of course I'd stay here. If I can grow and learn on the job, why would I leave? Because I'm gaining skills and I'm gaining position. I'm gaining a higher wage. The last thing you want to do is say, hey, there's an ascension program here. Figure out how to get better. And if you're better, maybe I'll give you a raise. Like, people are really like, see ya, I'm out.
And we really worked hard at that, Ben. I think that was something, as a visionary, maybe you're listening today and you're thinking, well, I just know me and I know I'm not that consistent. So to set up all these systems, it just seems really overwhelming. I'd say find somebody that can help you. Like, find somebody that's good at operations. Find somebody, maybe that's one of the kids you got working for you now. Maybe not. If you want to hire us or us to come in alongside to consult with you, like, we'll help with the work, we'll help with the advice. But I think find somebody that can help you with that, because I know Ben and I got to a place where we, with Wes, would say, hey man, you can't just bonus people because you feel like it. Like, you can't just there's no rhyme or rhythm to it. You can't just one day you're feeling generous, the next one you're feeling aggressive. Like, that's going to affect how people get paid. People don't stick around for that. Like, they want to know, no, I did a good job, and this is the metric it was used to determine it, and this is what I can expect because of it. And that's how we do raises around here. And so that's why we standardize things, because one of the worst things for your people can be your inconsistencies. Now, I will say, for a lot of visionaries, you're mercurial. You know what I mean? Like, you're erratic. You can be super excited one day and down maybe the next day, or you're up, and then, but you can be a little all over the place. Help somebody that you can just hand an idea off to that'll standardize it for you and then hold you accountable to it, because that's how you're going to grow. What we see consulting dozens of businesses every month, is the ones that are really successful are the ones that put standards into place and execute from standards. The bottom line, I think that your magic, your success, like maybe it has gotten you here, is not going to enable you to scale if you don't standardize, because people don't know how to follow unless you give them a track to follow. And so I think that as we talk about things like this, I hope that that resonates with you. If you're interested in our ordering tool, we'd love to give it to you. Just hit us up on socials in a DM. And man, thanks for hanging out. And we're hoping that your coffee business continues to experience amazing success. And we'll see you next week here at Coffee Experts Club. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Ben.
See you.
Next week.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.